Let's do this, everybody. Are you ready for another CIRF report as the world is burning? What's going to be the main energies in the coming week? This is the last week of 2020. I am going to put a little extra day on there. This is New Year's Eve because that technically falls out of our weekly report. But I'm going to show you what that looks like so you can plan the rest of this year, okay? And how was your shocking all week? Was it okay? Was it shocking? I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to review this week from a collective standpoint just to give you an idea that I think there's a lot more shock and awe than people realize. And I think that we're going to, like in hindsight, we're going to look back on this last week and go, there was a lot of shock and awe going on underneath the scenes. Where shall we start? How about the summary slide? Oh, that would be right here. Okay, so basically we're looking for the overlap. We triangulate for the energies, all right? You're going to use astrology, the I-Ching, and the collective unconscious. We also include the presidential election, which is not over yet. And you can see, just so you know, these circles are not overlapped this well and this tight on normal CIRF reports. It is a very high congruency score. And the topic is yang. It's creative. It's hard-hitting. It's action-oriented. That's the collective unconscious. This is the green circle. That spills out a little bit because we have a little of escapism and confusion. Yeah, it sounds a lot like Neptune, and there will be some Neptune in the astrology. That's the purple circle. That's the biggest one because it has the most variety of different energies, all right? And but it does match with the presidential election. There's hidden stuff here. There's deception. There is all sorts of conflict, and there's a chess match underneath it all. There's a big old chess match happening that you just don't know about. We don't know all the parts and pieces here yet. The I Ching says it's all yang, baby. Every one of these lines. We've had the creative, I believe, one other time in the history of the CIRF report, and that was a solution. This one is very unique because there's no change lines, and that is the first time this has ever happened. So not only do we have an I-Ching hexagram number 1, which is the masculine yang creative force. It's heaven over heaven, and we'll talk all about this, but there's no change lines, so there's no shifting over to any yin either. This is a week of yang, all right? That's where we are. We're going to get started with reviewing last week first when we come back. All right. Have you subscribed yet? Hit that subscription button, and you'll be able to get our weekly reports. This was the main shock and awe from mainstream point of view, and I agree with that. This is the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. It was otherwise known as the Bethlehem, the Christmas star. Did you see it? People that aren't into astrology were talking about this, making headline news. This is the first time in 400 years. And the next time in, 800 years, something insane, and how close these guys are going to get. Because remember, it's not just azimuth that they got close, but also in longitudes. You can see they're on the same longitude. And then you can even see these moons. This isn't my picture. I have a camera that can take some pretty good pictures of the moon, but it still was kind of washed out when we were looking at Saturn and Jupiter. But nonetheless, this was a form of shock and awe. But there's more. Remember that that mind-blowing report that was due on the 18th? Well, it got delayed. Surprised? Well, there was something that came out on the 18th, and it was equally, maybe even more shock and awe. And did you hear anything about it? No, because nobody reports on this. And this was apparently Trump signing on December 18th, same day that report was due. John Durham's given the authority to present classified information to a grand jury investigating the hoax. All right. That's a bombshell. And that's going to be in hindsight that we find that out. That was in hindsight back to the shock and awe week, according to the CIRF report. Here's another one. This is from Canada. Internet company becomes the first in Canada to be convicted of child porn charges. There's your shock and awe. Here's some more shock and awe. It's starting to get a little mainstream. Or these needle thingies, whatever you call those. I know what the word is. I'm just not using it because I know the algorithm hates when I use these words. But as a prop, fake. In other words, these are fake. Why are they so fake? That's a shock and awe. Was it the veto? Was it the underlying bill that was sending billions of dollars to foreign states? And then the resulting hammer down veto. Was it this one? It drops a bomb. That's shock and awe. Drops a bomb is the metaphor in the war room. Says Arizona is likely to vote today. If you're seeing this on the 23rd, this is the day that I'm doing this, you might see Arizona switching in the electoral votes. And this one didn't make the top. But this other shock and awe is that it's recognized that people are fleeing California so much that their House seat and electoral college changes and shifts. I don't know why this is not going to the top, but this is a different one. Yeah, this is a different one. So Georgia says there's enough evidence to decertify the old votes. Isn't that interesting? That's two different states that are basically saying the same thing. All right. Anyway, before we get into the astrology, let's look at the Dreambot. This is the collective unconscious. This is the energy, the latest energies represented in the collective unconscious, and it's all about action. This is all those red arrows. These are words like ing, like chasing, pulling, drink, take, looking, confusing. There's a lot of verbs in here, but there's also a subset. So overlapped in here are the blue arrows, which is a form of escapism, like leaving, escape, the word escape, and drink and drunk, like drug use. And then you can have confusion. That's the orange arrows or yellow arrows. It's confusion, and there's more confusion than there is escapism. But if you put escapism and confusion together, you get Neptune. So we need to be looking into Neptune, all right? And we're going to do that as we look into the astrology. Sorry for the noise in the background. We got a lot going on here in the house. All right, here's our overview. We have climaxing energy is the Mars square Pluto. We've been talking about this for weeks. And this is the conflict between the inner power and the outer power, the ability to manifest. Did I mean? Never mind. Let's continue. This is our feeling self-conflicted, like I need to be doing something. And I think this has caused us to feel like we got to sit on our hands and just wait, and everyone's impatient because they think they got to be doing something, but there's nothing to do, kind of a thing. Oh, but there is something you can do. And that whole dynamic has been around for a long time. It's still going to hang out, but it's climaxing on the first day of our CIRF report. In other words, tomorrow, 24th of December, Christmas Eve. This will be at a climax. And then from there, it'll start tapering off, and you'll be a lot less conflicted, but that pressure still remains. It's at a climax right now, which adds to this whole yang thing. And as much as we've been just waiting and yinning for weeks on end, I think this alignment, this square, is going to add to the feeling of pressure, and I'm going to be doing something. Okay. All right. And then we have some trines in there, some greens. So let's get down and dirty into each day. First off, so we're looking at Thursday the 24th, Christmas Eve. Look at all the squares. Now let's cover these real quick. There's that Neptune thing. Well, let me make this darker so it's easier for you to see. There's Neptune. That's from the Dreambot. It's all about confusion and escapism. And that's exactly what Neptune does. It poses fantasy. It's really hard to tell reality. I mean, these fantasies is like a reality in and of itself. And right now it's conflicted with relationships, finance, sense of beauty. And this is an impulsive sort of thing, a venture, and unattached. So if you can imagine a relationship that's sort of unattached, it's real, but there's a lot of fire. And there could be a lot of desire in that Venus in Sagittarius. And but anyway, all that's conflicted with what I want, what I imagine, what I dream of, all that stuff. It's hard to imagine. Hard to. That's the square there. The square itself is 90 degrees, and it makes energy not flow. It flows at its lowest output between two entities on the zodiac when there's a square. So this, it's not necessarily conflicted, but that can be a manifestation as conflict from a square. And so what's conflicted? Well, my sense of peace, my sense of harmony, my sense of beauty, the way I see the world is conflicted with what I want to see or what I'm being shown in my mind and that sort of thing. So that's the last I'm going to be talking about this, but it's obviously important because the Dreambot and the collective unconscious is seeing that Neptune influence. So I wanted to cover that. But the rest of these squares, look at all these squares. That is unprecedented. We have still, remember, Saturn and Jupiter together moving into Aquarius. They are into Aquarius. They're sort of leaving Pluto behind. That's about 7-8 degrees away. So this is the finale of this triage here. And that was, we considered the positive, that's Jupiter, transformation, Pluto, of the status quo. And so now Saturn, the status quo, and Jupiter, the wisdom, the optimistic status quo, that sort of thing. We're moving into a freedom-oriented, independence-loving Aquarius and based in wisdom and knowledge. And the transformation is almost over, folks. That's the bottom line here. Now, this is all squared with some significant entities who have the same sort of context. You have the Black Moon Lilith. Now, there's no lines from Black Moon Lilith. I haven't set that up. So if you can imagine another 3 squares here, all right, that's significant. So you got the Black Moon Lilith together with the moon, together with Uranus. Uranus and Black Moon Lilith happen to be these big change agents. You can expect Uranus to make a change, but you have no idea. If you think it's going to be this one, if you have a smorgasbord of options that Uranus is going to make a change with, he says, and throws one in from left field. That's the same thing with Black Moon Lilith, and people really have a bad opinion of Black Moon Lilith. I can't blame them, but it's very unexpected energy. Right? That's the bottom line. Unexpected, untamed fire. And then, of course, Mars. Mars is conflicted with all that we talked about over there. All 3 of these entities, all 4 of these entities, even your emotions and the mind. Now, emotions are exalted in Taurus. Moon is exalted in Taurus. And Taurus being the finer experiences in life. It's very earthy. It's a bold. It's slow, methodical, but hard to stop. And that's your emotions too. And you can get really bullheaded here with your emotions exalted. In other words, the easiest ease of that energy, which in this case would be, mothering, maternal instincts, emotional work, maybe even sort of like dreams represents at night. So dreaming, that sort of thing. So all that's conflicted and pressured. If this is a pressure, this is a growing pressure. Then I have to acknowledge that there's trines, and Mercury is combust, so running a little bit low. Thoughts are a little bit harder, getting easier by the day because Mercury is breaking away from the sun, getting more distance away from it, which is a good thing for your thoughts and rational side of things and short-term travel. The sun is in Capricorn, so your identity is with goals. It tends to be looking for the future. It tends to be looking for things that can improve your life, and it is very earthy. So there's a lot of earth here, because you've got the change agents in Taurus, that's an earth sign, trine, that's easy energy, with your thoughts and your ego in a goal-oriented sort of way, and I'm looking to the vista. So maybe things are changing tremendously, and the easy energy out. So if you got all this pressure with the red, all that easy energy, all that pressure has an easier outlet over to your thoughts and your ego. So your identity and the way you think and all that, especially the way you think about yourself, can automatically change. It's going to be a real interesting phenomenon for you as you look into the future. It's going to be easy to change those. It might be a good time to design some New Year's resolutions. I hate New Year's resolutions. Just make some goals and start today. All right. I think that's about it. Anyway, bottom line is the biggest yang. Remember the I-Ching, the creative. I'm going to highlight this last thing. Here is the sun. Now the sun isn't all that particularly strong. It's not weak in Capricorn, but it is more goal-oriented. Sun generally likes the fire more. It's home to Leo and likes that fire. It's hot, it's emanating, it's the epitome of yang. And it's easy energy over to these change agents. So there's a lot of yang there because it's easy energy. And then you've got Mars as sort of the number 2 yang entity. And then you've got all this conflict. So it's a mega yang and change day. This equals the creative. I'm going to use this day, the 24th. Interestingly, one more way that this represents the yang. Think about it. On the 21st, that's the shortest day of the year. It's the longest night of the year. But the sun is at its lowest. So the sun goes dark for 3 days. It's a metaphor. It's in the metaphysical libraries. The sun is sacrificed. For 3 days it goes dark. And then it's said to rise again. The sun rises again. Now this is both the S-U-N sun and the S-O-N sun in terms of metaphysics and philosophies and analogies and archetypes. So this is the 24th. So one more way that this is yang. This is how the sun rises again right here on this day. It happens to be Christmas Eve. Happens to be with all these big old squares. So it's a pressure to get stuff done. It's a pressure to be right. It's a pressure to direct the energy and channel it into something. And we'll hopefully talk about that as well. But this is the day that we're going to use our calculator for the solution. Get into Friday, not a lot of changes, but see, wrote here this goes exact, the Mars and Pluto, big unexpected turns in the positive transformation of the status quo. That is still a thing, it's still within that 8 degrees, but we're in its final stages. The transformation is almost complete. And you can see this out in the headlines too, by the way. This is our last little gig here. On Saturday, that was Christmas, by the way. I don't have any additions. You still have the square here. Moon's going to make a sextile. That's about it. Everything else pretty much the same. Saturday, the 26th. So now Mars is whipping around here pretty quick, and it's going to start to age out this Pluto thing. And so that's going to feel nice, but there's going to be some other squares to take over here. So it's still going to be conflicted. Yeah, the moon whips around and makes some trines. It's easier energy emotionally. I would imagine that as the Mars square Pluto ages out, there's a chance that you may not notice it because of just the bulk of other squares that replace this. All right. And we'll talk about all that too. And when that ends is around middle February, all these squares, it gets worse before it gets better. All right. Sunday, the 27th. we have a full moon, and it's going to be, no, I'm sorry. No, sorry. This is Venus opposed moon. All right. And the moon's over the North Node in Gemini. So more rational thoughts and maybe rational type emotions, if there is such a thing. Maybe this is when you meld the emotional mind with the rational mind, that sort of thing. Emotions are oriented into the future, though. You can have, if you tune into your emotions this day as it flies over the North Node, you can get a sense for what's right for you and insights about the future. This is a very karmic thing, the North Node. So tune into your emotions that day. This should be very reasonable. That's Gemini. And then explorative, romantic, and maybe even risky finance is over here on Venus. And those two things that I just mentioned have to balance each other out. And that could be difficult when you've got Venus as one half with that square to Neptune. So now you're pressured away from or in conflict with your dreams or the fantasy that you think is real, that whole thing. All right, Monday, it's 28th. This is a trap. On the 28th, you've got Neptune being the center of a trap. It's a T-square. You still have that balancing thing with Venus and the moon and your emotions. Still can tune into your emotions for insights about the future. And but the trap is the fantasy, or trap is this escapism from all this conflict and the pressure and the shoulds and the idealism. All that stuff is going to be present. And so if you get trapped in your fantasy land, in your mind, into the future and imagining these things, you're going to have a real rough time on this day, on the 28th. I'm recommending in that case, because fantasy isn't just in your mind. It can be out in the world too. For example, there's a lot of fantasy going on in media. Lots of fantasy. It's very hard. Like the House of Mirrors is continuing. It's very hard to determine fact or fiction on just about everything. And there's like a narrative, and it's a false narrative on a lot of different fronts. Question everything. So that's the first recommendation on the 28th. Question everything. Don't be stuck in this fantasy, and it could be the TV. Maybe shut the TV off. Maybe turn your phone off for a day. This would be the day to do it, because you don't want to be trapped in a false sense of fantasy. Then Crazy Town happens on Tuesday. This is Cancer craziness because of the full moon. Full moon energy typically is crazy, plus or minus 24 hours. And it's in Cancer, so protective, nurturing, motherly, and just want to be homely, be at home. Maybe that's the energy, is just to stay home on the 29th and be away from the craziness. And that's what full moons do. And police departments know it. Not every one of them, but traditionally they have put out more police officers around full moons. And this is a very protective one. So if people are sort of crazy around a protection or at home, you're probably going to see a lot more strife in relationships. I mean, relationships is conflicted anyway. So anyway, be aware of that. And this is in the afternoon. I've got this chart at 12 o'clock. It's not a perfect full moon yet, so don't look at this time. This is just 12 o'clock, and you've got another afternoon, early evening is when this full moon takes place. All right. Wednesday, the 30th, we have continued opposition here. We have continued squares. We have a lot more trines. So now we have what's added is a Mars trine Venus, and it's both fire. So it's this is gonna be the outlet to the kindling, and you've got a little spark. This could produce a big flame, and because there is a lot of fire there, and that could be pretty easy. Now a lot of people see the the trine energy is very easy, and you've got the masculine trine the feminine. Well, that's true. But astrology isn't good or bad. It doesn't predict good or bad. It predicts an energy. So if you've got a bunch of pressure here and a bunch of conflict, there needs to be an outlet, and the outlet tends to go to that easy trine energy, and it could have a disastrous effect on your relationships, i.e. Venus. So just watch out for that, all right? Particularly around this full moon thing. That just makes people crazy at home anyway. Then you have, I'm going to add in here the 31st because it rounds out the last day of the year. It's a huge trap. There's 2 T-squares, all right? Do I make a recommendation on any travel or anything? I don't know. For me, I think I'd probably like to just stay home. And I know. I'm not, well, whatever. I have a lot to say there, but not going to. It's a trap. It's a trap in change. It's a trap in unexpectedness. It's a trap in getting something done. Mars, your ability to output. This is a day, typically, you go to the opposite side of the trap for your solution in astrology, and you just happen to have the part of fortune, which is in Libra. So maybe just take a day off. Just hang out with your loved ones, your close friends, and just keep the peace. Libra, wonderful. Keep the peace. Just keep the peace. That might be your solution for the 31st. And then the big next timestamp is on January 6th for a lot of talk in transition points and the election. All right. Here's another trap. And the trap is, ironically, the very last of this triplet. Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, even Mercury has embedded as part of this now. So your thoughts are in with the status quo or the optimistic of status quo, but it's all pressured. I mean, major pressure away from it. In fact, it becomes a trap. Thinking so hard about the positive transformation of the way things have always been is a trap now. And your mind can't get around it. And your mind, which is Mercury, is Capricorn, so goal-oriented and future-looking. You're going to have to get out of your thoughts. It's a trap. Be over here. The closest thing, well, it's Cancer. So maybe stay home unless you're part of this wave of mass and majority, silent majority. If you're part of that wave to get stuff done, don't stay at home, but you can protect. And you don't have to be at home to protect. Protect what? Protect your values. Protect what's important to you. That's all I got to say there. So lots of things happening. Let's look at the I-Ching. This is the influence, but also the solution, because there's no change lines. It's heaven over heaven, from the influence to the solution. It's the same. Creative power. Hexagram number 1. The air is ripe with imagination, inspiration, and energy. The flying dragon is an ancient symbol of dynamic arousing force that bodes well for a creative movement. If your goals are in alignment with the greater good, positive actions taken with good timing will meet with success. This is an excellent time to exercise leadership, because you can be strong now. Be forewarned, success turns to failure if strength turn arrogant. This first hexagram contains all yang lines and is one of the most auspicious readings of the Book of Changes. Whoever draws this hexagram is assured success if they follow its 6 stages of development. So what I've done is we're going to talk about those in the solution. All right. Believe in your dreams and persevere. I'm going to have to change that based on the astrology. I wouldn't believe your dreams this week automatically. I would put some rational thought into it, because Neptune is in a square with Venus. And anytime you have Neptune squared, it's an illusion. It could be extra fantasy. It could be extra problematic. It could make you feel like you're escaping. Okay, so just be a little careful there. But in the essence of this is establish a vision for yourself and believe in it. It's not dreams necessarily, but But persevere, and everything around you will flourish. Call upon your creative power and let it work for you. Stay focused on your goals. Do not allow yourself to be distracted, or you may lose the power that is available to you now. Did you see that? Don't allow yourself to be distracted. Remember that when taking action, success requires making the right moves at the right time. All right, you ready for the solution? Let's give our sponsor a little time. All righty. If you're having problems or if you want an astrology reading, you can look up on intervention.com and I can provide that. I am busy for the rest of the year. We can look into the first of the year, and we do projected charts, we do natal charts, etc. All right, here's the solution. And it's still the hexagram number 1, but as you saw, we have to be in alignment with this developing yang energy. So there may be a creative potential in your situation that you cannot perceive. All right, I'm just going to read the gist of these things. So first is you may not know your potential initially. Then events are moving in the right direction. Your influence is growing and you're being noticed. And think in terms of the collective as well when you hear this, but as above, so below. So you're going to feel this in your own life, or you need to look for these stages in your own life, but see how this is relevant in today's world too. Line 3, a sphere of influence is opening up for you now. Let yourself be active. Do not expect an immediate reward. Line 4, your creative power is growing. You have a clear choice in this situation, either lunge forward or draw back. Line 5, the dragon is soaring. Your power is growing. Be like the leader who is considerate to those under his or her influence. In return, the respect of those who work with you or the respect of the partner will deepen. Line 6, this is the last one. Be wary of personal ambition that exceeds your true power, lest there be cause for remorse. Add arrogance. Isolating yourself will only lead to sorrow. All right. So don't be selfish. You got to look into your intentions, and they have to be honorable, but they have to be commensurate with your higher values. All right, as promised, remember this is the 24th with all that pressure and the easy energy to the sun, the epitome of yang, and that looks at hexagram 10. And we're going to be hexagram 10 in the Rave Mandala means that we're going to be looking at our Sagittarius solution again. 10 in the Rave Mandala is the channel of awakening. It's a big one. The first and foremost initiation is to recognize who we are. This channel is perfectly illustrated by the inscription over the Oracle of Delphi, know thyself. Awakening is not a commitment to becoming something. It is a commitment to being oneself. One cannot know what is incomplete. The mystical love of this vessel gate is the love of self as it is, in the now. This is the awakeness. I find it very interesting that the majority of the Rave Mandala hexagram 10 is talking about the awakening. So we're on the line 4. It's the opportunist, the acceptance of norms until a successful transformation can be engendered. We are in the midst of a collective transformation. So the positive side of this energy, according to the Rave, says transformation that is transcendent to a higher code. The maintaining of behavioral patterns until the right moment and opportunity for transformation. The downside or the risk is opportunism is a game and or mental exercise, altering one's behavioral patterns in order to take advantage of opportunities. In other words, what they're saying is your intentions matter, and also patience to make sure the time is right. Well, I'm I'm seeing that this is the right time for a lot of things, a lot of massive things happening. This yang is going to give energy to the transformation that we have been talking about. You can pause that, see if you want to. You can pause it to read it. It's a really interesting take. But let's go to the solution slide. And this is the influence. It's action, as above, so below. Now, it is kind of hard to take action with a lot of squares, but you're going to feel that pressure to act, all right? And so there's going to be some heavy lifting and physical. It's going to be very physical. It's going to be very seen, outward. Remember, the yin we've been experiencing lately has been hidden, obscured. We just have to trust. We have to wait, patience. And now it's about you taking upon it yourself to do something. And I'll talk specifically about what that is because we get into the solution now. Best solution, we triangulate with the I-Ching. That's one. That's a creative yang power. Go out and lead, pave the way. The Rave Mandala is 10. It says, gate of behavior of the self, awaken to knowing yourself. Then we have the Sidereal, Sagittarius, expansive, free, wise, wide-ranging. We talked about this last week. It's very optimistic. And we want to enact all these, but we want the center. We want the overlap. So here it is. This is the week to pounce. It doesn't mean the whole week. It means what's right for your timing in an individual way. But it's the week of power. The power is available. The pressure is there. Beware of the pressure to do something. This yang should be coming from the soul, should be coming from a higher perspective. Align your intentions with selfless goodwill. May have to fight for your values, but you have the energy to do that. Energy is climaxing. We're talking about like the Pluto square Mars energy. That's climaxing this week. Capture it, but don't get veered off track. In other words, don't get veered off track of your vision, your goals, your values. Keep the vision, goals, intentions, and values in your awareness field. The fruit of this week is awakening. That gives me chills. Awaken to your true self, your higher purpose. The highest form of the awakening is becoming the highest form of you. Circumstances might get hard this week. That's all those squares. But that feeds the yang energy to you. And now can you, like a solar panel, can you take all that extra energy in, organize it so that you can channel it out into something productive? Instead of just chaotic energy. That's dangerous even. So draw on your spiritual channel, trust your conduit, get help from your higher God or religious symbol, get help with your soul, your oversoul, whatever. Angels. Use Sag archetype for maximizing the energy of this week. That means be expansive, free, lose your attachments to things, or when people have attachments to you, lose those. That's the Sagittarius doesn't like those attachments. Be optimistic, philosophical, spiritual. And then finally, this feeling has a law of one taste to it. So it says, and according to the Rave Mandala, it said to know yourself is the awakening. Well, maybe we need to do this at a collective level, but you've got to do it at the individual level so that the collective can aspire to the great awakening. And according to the law of one, it says, first, understand yourself. And this is from a very deepening sense. It's not just from a personality profile or an astrology type or something like. It's all of that from lots of different perspectives. But the more frameworks that you can understand yourself in, you start to realize that none of these things are really me. In fact, the more language that I put to describing me is actually taking away from who I really am deep inside. So spending quiet time with self is important, but not the whole time. It's more of a yin activity, but you don't want to be just going out and doing stuff this week without understanding yourself. So understand yourself. Then you have to accept everything that you find there. And then, according to the law of one, when you understand yourself and you accept yourself, then you can become the creator. And in this one, you can see the sun in the background. That's the epitome of the yang. And you've got I-Ching 1 with no change lines whatsoever. This is the week to become the creator. And when you do this at an individual level, that adds to the awakening at the collective level. So we become the creator. How awesome is that? All right, guys and gals, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing. I am so appreciative that there's no way that all these people that have viewed it were just the initial subscribers. So that means a lot of you are sharing, or some of you are sharing at a great level. And I just appreciate it. Thank you. And happy holidays. Merry Christmas. But we will see you once more before the end of the year, and we'll take you into that first week of the year. All right, guys, gals. See you next week.